Welcome back to Beyond Broke and Hungry. This week we are interviewing the ladies from Athenas Coaching. We have Laura and Honor here. Thank you so much for being here, ladies.
Yep. Thank you.
So we're going to start loosen things up a little bit. What's the weirdest thing that happened to you this week?
Wow, what's the weirdest thing that happened to me this week? I didn't really have anything weird happen to me. How about you, Honor?
Goodness gracious. Let's see. The weirdest thing that happened to me this week. I think we ran out of eggs. I know that's like, isn't that just crazy? I mean, yeah, that's about the weirdest thing that happened that I can think of. So
well, there you go. It's definitely something.
Hey, that would be, I like hard boiled eggs every single week and like put them in my salads. So that is, I'd be like, oh my God, I don't have eggs. So I can get on that.
Good. That would be devastating for Dara. We've spent the entire week prepping eggs at my house, just lots and lots of eggs.
I eat a lot of eggs.
Oh my gosh, I hit a chord. That's so funny.
Alrighty, well, why don't each of you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into life coaching?
Okay, well, I can start. So I have a background of about 25 years in the corporate world, working internationally in various places, and I moved to Michigan, got married, moved to Michigan, and changed careers, went into building and renovating houses and real estate. After about 7 years of that, I realized that wasn't really working for me. It wasn't very fulfilling. I missed the professional world. I missed the interaction and connecting with people. So I did some soul searching. I got myself a coach and started to figure out what I wanted to do. And I decided I was going to be a coach. And so I actually started a training process, and that's where Laura and I met. So that's how I got here.
All right, Laura, your turn.
Yeah, my turn. So I am just a jack of all trades here. I started actually as a chemical engineer and then went and got my MBA and did brand management for years. And then I stopped for a little bit, had my son, and went back and I became a certified financial planner and had my own financial planning practice for about a decade. And I retired from that about 3 years ago. And I realized what I really missed about what I did with my clients was the whole life planning part, right? So even though you're a financial advisor and they're paying you to give them advice, and in the meetings, they're like, yeah, we're going to go do that. This is great. I realized that they didn't always do what was on their to-do list, right? And it wasn't until I incorporated these coaching practices, these life planning practices, where we create a vision for the client, we hold them accountable, we really touch on what's really important to them in terms of values and their bucket list. That's when you saw the magic happen. That's when they started to really follow through. And to see that transformation, that was just so rewarding for me.
I mean, I guess when it comes to your financial planning, you almost have to be a life coach in a way, just because you got to help a person out with the finances. Money kind of moves everything, So that's great how things kind of just transitioned that way for you.
Right.
What's some advice that you could give somebody who is, whether it's in the creative industry or just in the beginning of their industry, and everybody kind of starts at, the lower totem pole. How does one stay healthy while living on a budget?
Well, I think first off, because we're coaches, we really wanted to start with, what does healthy mean to you? Like, healthy's totally different for me than it is for somebody else. Mm-hmm. I don't need to lose weight, but I really want to look at my levels of my blood. Like, I want to make sure my sugar's low. I want to make sure my cholesterol's low. I want to make sure that I'm fit. I want to make sure that I'm not in pain. So I'd have to say to that person, make sure you have a good vision of what it means to be healthy first, and what does that look like, really creating that future image of themselves so that they're motivated to really move towards that ideal health status, whatever that might mean for them.
Yeah, and one of the things, when Laura and I make sure that we're very holistic about our coaching, and so we coach people in different areas, careers, life change, financial. But we also coach the whole person. So when you're thinking about health, our mind immediately goes to our body, but there's also mental health, emotional health. Sure. And even spiritual health. And so we make sure that we address all of those with people, and we want to make sure today when we're talking that we bring those things in as well.
Yeah, it's so important.
So what, as far as budgeting goes, for people that, let's say they're starting off in a creative industry, they are maybe doing an unpaid internship and scraping to get by, driving for a Lyft or something like that. What do you think is the first step to getting their life on track once they do figure out what healthy means for them?
Yeah, well, obviously they have to create a budget, right? And so everybody's going to have a different budget based on what their expenses are, their fixed expenses, their variable expenses. And when we look at eating, that tends to be something that's relatively fixed if we're, for example, cooking for ourselves. So I would say number one, learn how to cook. And you can also do some meal planning as well. But the part that gets tough is the more variable stuff. And now I'm kind of talking like a financial planner, but it's that eating out, right? It's when we go to the grocery store, instead of just getting what we need, we buy a bunch of other stuff that just looks good, like makeup and whatever. And so then we blow our budget. Real quickly, have a budget, try to stick to it, learn to cook, don't eat out as much. For example, I do intermittent fasting. To me, it's one of the number one things you can do to stay healthy. I don't eat breakfast. I don't eat until noon. So I'm cutting out a whole meal there. That's a third of your food budget.
Right. That'll definitely make a dent in that.
Yeah, and once you get your budget, you know what's important to you, and you set your budget, you should write down your goals. Figure out what's important to me, how much money do I have after I do my budget, and write down your goals. 47% more likely to meet your goals if you write them down. So that's an easy step. Just put them, and then put them somewhere where you're going to see them. Because a lot of times we write down our goals, we stick them, we go, oh, that was great. Pat yourself on the back, and we stick them in a drawer, and we don't reflect back on them.
Right. This going into 2020 was the first time I actually sat down and wrote out my goals, financial, personal, career, friendships.
Great, yeah.
And it really, I've always had goals to get where I am with my career and everything else, but I never actually physically wrote them down, and it totally changed my perspective, because I feel like it really helps you organize that.
Yep.
And then you have a destination, so then you're able to kind of figure out the map on how to get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And here's another really good tip in terms of writing things down that I did when I was first starting out. I would take the weekly circulars or see what was on sale at wherever I shopped, right? And I would plan my meal around whatever was on sale for the entire week. And I'd only go to the market once, so that I had everything there. And so when we plan ahead like that, we write it all down, we have a planning. I know it takes a little more time, but it's amazing how much money we can actually save. Mm-hmm. Because normally we spend money when we're trying to be convenient, right? And we don't have our act together.
Right. And with my grocery shopping, the way I do things, I don't tend to do a weekly meal prep, but what works for me is kind of eating in season and then going for the foods that are discounted, getting a lot of produce. And I'll go to Kroger, get the fruits and veggies that are in the discounted section and kind of base some meals off of that. But I'm a really creative cook, so that's fun for me. But I know a lot of people have to. Dara's the complete opposite.
Going shopping with Ellen is just like, let's walk in and see what happens. And like me, like this is the first year I've written down my goals for like the year and things like that. But I have since I was in college, I physically write out my meal plan. I physically write my grocery list down. And that is something, even when I was a little girl, like I would get mad at my mom if she would go grocery shopping without me.
Yeah.
Because I loved grocery shopping, but like I have to go in with a plan. Otherwise I feel like I aimlessly walk around and I'll be like, oh, well, this, especially being from Florida, going to Publix, like the BOGOs that you've got going on all the time. I'm like, oh, I'll have this. And then if I don't go in with a plan, I end up spending on average about $40 more than if I just go in, I have my list, I allow maybe one or two things like off the list. But I was like having anxiety when I went grocery shopping with Ellen before. Like she was like, oh, we could do this and we could do this. And I was like, if we just had like a plan before we came in here, this would be a little bit easier.
And that brings up a really good point is you have to know yourself, right? Because back to Laura's point about ask some questions, it's the same thing, right? For you, you have to plan it out. You have to know what you're going in for, and then you can be intentional about it. And for Ellen, she's like, oh, I love to creatively cook, right? So it's like enjoyable to go in and think about what can I make when I look at these ingredients, right?
Yeah.
So you have to know yourself, and that's a good first step.
Yeah, it's really
The other thing is, what's interesting. I've done some study and some research, and it shows that we tend to weigh the same amount as the people we hang out with. We tend to adopt either their bad habits or their good habits. So maybe think about who you're going to be spending time with. So, for example, I had a client once who came in, and she did not make a lot of money, but she was hanging around with a lot of people who did. And this happens a lot, by the way, in the entertainment industry. I know you guys are out there in Nashville. And so she felt like she had to keep up with the Joneses. So she was going out to dinner every night, and she had massive credit card debt. And it was crazy. And I was saying, you cannot do this. She's like, but they're all doing it. And so think about maybe having an accountability. And they would even tell her, I don't know that you can afford this. And so it's funny. You really need to have an accountability partner and make sure that they know what your goals are, or else they can sabotage you, right? Or you can sabotage yourself if you're not really, hey, this is what I wrote down. This is what I want to do this year. I really have to be committed.
Yeah, and I feel like the statistics person today, but if you have an accountability partner, studies show that you're 80% more likely to meet your goals. So, I mean, that's a huge number. So if it's really important to you, find somebody that shares your passion, you guys and Laura and I, and tell them what your goals are, and then ask them to check in with you and check in with each other, right?
Absolutely. So beyond the budgeting, how do you guys personally define health? What does that mean for you? How do each of you put that into action in your own lives?
I like to eat healthy. I'm mostly on a plant-based diet right now. And so, somebody said to me the other day that they heard you're supposed to eat about 8 handfuls of vegetables a day. And I thought, that's a lot easier to sort of get your head around than all these other metrics, So I've been keeping that in mind, and I've been being creative with meal planning, but I do need to plan ahead. So, but also exercise is important. And I have a Fitbit, and I try to do my, I try to do 30 minutes personally a day, and I walk my dogs. So it's like a win-win. We all get outside, we get some fresh air, we get some vitamin D, they get some exercise, they're happy, super happy. And, and I get up from my desk and I walk around, in the middle of the day, and I have the ability to do that since I work for myself. And also I love to do yoga, and I'm doing a 30 days of yoga on YouTube. There's a woman called Yoga with Adrienne.
Love it.
I love her. And I've been, watching her, doing her yoga at home for a couple of years with her. And then last year was my first time 30 days of yoga, and then I'm doing it again. And I try to do it every morning, and it just makes such a difference to start my day that way.
Absolutely.
And, yoga is one of those things that's good for your body, good for your mind, good for your soul, so it's a win-win-win.
100%.
Yeah, so I'm a total health nut as well. And I wasn't always that way, but I actually developed fibromyalgia right after I had my son. And it can be such a painful and debilitating disease. And actually they call it a syndrome, but I call it my forced exercise program because it's really the best thing you can do for fibromyalgia. So I have the same weight that I had before I even became pregnant with my son. So I've maintained my weight throughout the years. I am super into anti-aging. I exercise every day if I can. If I miss one, it's generally because I was pretty busy or I just really intentionally gave myself the day off. But I walk about an hour to an hour and a half when I do my cardio, which is normally about 5 or 6 days a week. And on those off days, or actually in addition to the walking, I will do light weights, stretches, Pilates, a little bit of yoga. I'm more of a Pilates person myself, but I'm freakish about my diet. I'm also kind of plant-based. I literally just finished my kale salad with anchovies and sunflower seeds. So I'm really big into, there's like a low lectin diet that I follow, which is Dr. Gundry. And I also, but actually right now I'm on Whole30 because I totally gave up alcohol and sugar. Yeah, I see the thumbs up.
Yeah.
Whole30, it's more for the mental challenge to start the year, to just start the year. But otherwise, I'm a pretty Mediterranean but a lower carb version of Mediterranean. And as Honor knows, I'm pretty freakish about it. She's had dinner with me and seen my crazy habits. And I do the intermittent fasting. I normally do not eat until around noon every day. And that's huge research that goes with that. It's anti-aging, it's anti-cancer, anti-disease. It's incredibly powerful research.
So, Lara, you said that you haven't always felt like really tied to your health until you had this fibromyalgia. So is that really what pushed you towards taking care of your body?
Yeah, because as a younger woman, when I had my son, I was always very thin and I never had to work out. I was really a couch potato. I was workaholic, so I rarely had time to work out when I was in the corporate world. And after I had my son, that was what the doctor said. Consider this your pill. It's exercise. And so I realized that if I exercised every day, it got the blood flowing, my muscles were more supple, and I didn't have the tightness and the ache. So that really was when I became super intentional. But you guys are young. When you start to get a little older, you really start pondering the fact that not only do you want to live a longer life, but you want to live longer. So you want to have the body of a young person. You don't want to have any pain. And so that's where I became freakish about it. And I read all kinds of books and research through my financial analysts. I've kind of been following trends and the gurus in the anti-aging field. So I take certain supplements that they recommend, like astaxanthin, which is krill oil, which is supposed to be very anti-aging, and intermittent fasting as well.
For sure. What about you, Honor? When did that all start for you?
Well, interestingly, I grew up very thin as well, like Laura, so I didn't have to, we tend to think about health in terms of if you're fat, right? If you're overweight. And so I didn't really think about it, and I thought, I'm healthy. But, I've got genetically high cholesterol, so it's not based on my weight, but it's something that I have to pay attention to. And so started getting my attention about my diet. Even in college, I didn't weigh enough to give blood, but I had high cholesterol. So I had to just rethink what I was eating. And when you're in college and everybody's going out for pizza and burgers and beer, I had to order some other things and think about it differently. And so I kind of gave myself a few rules, no fried food, no cheese. And, I've forgotten the last one. But anyway, and that worked out well for me for a while. But as Laura said, as you get older and things change, then you have to start doing things differently.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, when I was 15, I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome. So pretty much like my body doesn't work well with insulin. It doesn't really know how to process it. So very early on, my doctor was like, honestly, it doesn't matter if you eat lettuce for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If you're not moving, if you're not making your body move and exercising, you're gonna gain weight. And so I'm on all these different supplements, and I kind of had to learn early on. Balance is very important with the diet. Like I personally I'm not eating no cheese, no carb. Like that's not really my thing. I did Whole30 last year and felt great from cutting out dairy and and heavy gluten. So I kind of have decreased how much I consume of those items. But my freshman year of college, my first semester, I was going out all the time because everybody was going out. My roommates were going out. My sisters in my sorority was going out. So I was trying to keep up with this social life. And then one day I was taking a shower and I guess my blood sugar dropped, and I had tunnel vision. I fell to the ground. I was shaking, and after I called my mom like hysterical because I was really scared about what happened. And ever since then, that was kind of like I still went out and would have fun, and I've definitely had a little too much fun a couple times, but I still was always being mindful of like, okay, I have to go grocery shopping. I have to cook my food. I have to meal prep. If I'm going to go out, like I can't eat chicken tenders and French fries every single day. Like every now and then that's fine. And throughout college, it was difficult as after I graduated and kind of had my own routine, it got easier, but it was scary to experience that moment where I was fainting almost and like falling to the ground and seeing black and just laying there like I have no idea what's happening. Am I dying? I'm not sure.
There's a whole positive perspective there though, right? Because of that, it's a scary thing and all, but you're going to be healthier for many, many decades because of that.
Oh yeah.
And that's how I see my fibromyalgia. It's like, it's a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at it as something negative, you don't make the best out of it. But if you can make your pain your purpose, that's okay, and, just like you have that scary moment with your disease, I think, and maybe Honor can also speak to this, but we're seeing a lot of people, friends of ours who have cancer, and that just really starts shocking you when you start seeing so many women I know who have had breast cancer, for example, and it really does make you just rethink what you do, all of your habits that could be cancer causing, whether it's, how much alcohol you drink or the types of things that you consume, like sugar, for example, which is probably one of the worst things we should eat. It's like a wake up call.
It definitely
is. It for sure was. And as I said, being in college, I was still trying to, be fun and have all that. And I wasn't as healthy as I should have been, but it was coming out of college and being an adult and realizing I have to be at work at 8:00 in the morning. I can't go out every night like I was in college. And, I have a tighter budget that I have to follow because I can't just ask mom for money, if I want to go out. So those steps kind of pointed me in the right direction. And I feel like I'm always learning and always evolving when it comes to that. But it was it was good for me to have that moment because it was like, okay, Dara, you need to make this a priority. This has to be something you focus on. Otherwise, you could hurt yourself.
Right.
Okay, so turning things around a little bit, I'd love to talk about how your biggest recommendations, how you think that people should start to create new goals and move forward into reaching them. What are the first steps?
Well, I think that the key thing there is just you want SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And like, for example, I'm on Whole30 now, right? So specifically, I know which foods I need to avoid, like you're saying, the dairy, the sugar, the alcohol, the grains, pretty much everything fun. But I try not to think about it as a month, although it is a month. That's a very specific time, and I know what I have to do, and it's measurable. I really try to focus on each week. For some reason, 7 days is a lot more achievable. And so that's one thing, is have the SMART goals, and also establish micro habits. So, for example, here's an interesting study. Women who have, for example, their chips that are accessible to them on the top of the counter weigh 8 pounds more than if their chips were in the cupboard. So one micro habit might be just to take all of your junk food and put it in the pantry a little bit further away. For those of you who absolutely need it in the house, let's say for kids or other people. But, a better one might be to just throw out something, but maybe that's not realistic for you. And you're right. Sometimes we eliminate whole food groups. That's just too much, right? We're going to cheat. So have something, maybe make it tiny steps. Maybe you reduce sugar a week at a time, or we do it by eliminating just soda, for example. We call them micro habits in coaching. So here's another one. If you want to exercise every day, maybe you want to put your exercise clothes on at night before you go to bed, or have them right there on the chair as soon as you get up, and commit to 5 minutes of exercise. So if you then are able to get those 5 minutes, by the time the 5 minutes are done, you're going, okay, let's just keep going, right? So that's a micro habit. And if you don't, okay, I did my 5 minutes, I established my goal. Those little teeny routines that we can establish are so powerful and
Oh yeah, Ellen's really good at hiding food in the cupboard. She left me at her house the other day, and I was looking for the Cheez-Its, and they were like behind a box. I was like, I know we just got those. Where'd they go?
We had these Saunders dark chocolate caramels. It's a Michigan thing. My mom always sends me home with them after Christmas. She got me a huge Costco package of them, which is incredibly dangerous.
Right.
And so when Dara first got here, we were both just like, we had each been having one, and then a few hours later we would have another one. And so since then, like the first night after eating a million of those things, we hid them in the back of the cupboard, and neither of us have touched them since. Not once. So
It works.
it works.
Yeah. So, and another thing that you can do is really do some visualization. I mean, think about, why is this your goal? What do you want it to look like? Not physically, but what do you want your life to look like at the end of this goal? Close your eyes and really imagine yourself in that place, right? And feel it, like really feel it. Feel it in your body, feel it in your mind, feel it in your heart. And that will really motivate you to stick to your goals. And another visual cue, to create a vision board, right? Pinterest, or even just on paper, and stick it up in your room, and just remember why you're doing this. What's the point? The point is to live longer. The point is to feel better, right? And the point is to stick to your budget.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I actually have I'm going to whip it out right now. I have my vision board.
All right.
that I created for 2020. Thank you. Yeah, this was like the first time I'd really done one, just as writing down all of my goals for the first time. So it really does,
nice.
and I have some financial goals on there, like an adventure goal, something as simple as I love to read, but as an adult, it's hard I listen to audiobooks sometimes while I'm driving, but to sit down, there's just nothing like sitting down with a book and flipping through the pages. And, I know it sounds weird, but I like to smell books when I get them. I just love the way they smell. So one of the things is I really just want to finish a fiction book, I listen to self-help stuff all the time, but just something to kind of escape, aside from watching TV or Netflix or whatever. And just, I have a little something frivolous on there, is to, maybe buy myself some like studded diamond earrings, but just to have a vision, Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right. So next question for you ladies. So what is possible if you can reach your ideal health status, whatever your goal is? I feel like you can just achieve so much more. I just wanted to hear your perspective on that.
So, I mean, I think it's just living, thinking about the future. And, when I retire in 15, 20 years, whatever that's going to be, I want to be able to go hiking. I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to take long walks and continue walking my dogs, and, spend quality time with my husband and my stepchildren and my family, and feel good. As you start to get older, then you start to realize that when you don't take care of yourself, you feel it. You feel it a lot more. And so when the younger you start and the longer you can continue it, then you can live a longer, fuller, more fulfilling life.
Absolutely. And what about you, Laura?
For me, I think coaching has been so transformative for me. And what I've seen massive changes in the people that I've coached. And so I know that I guess my big goal is to think big for myself. And I guess I'm currently asking myself, like, what does that really mean? So it's really no barriers, right? And it also, I am coming to the realization that you need to be, my big theme word for the year is to glide into things, to let life flow. And so for me, it's being open to the fact that these big opportunities can come. And that also is very consistent with the creative people in the industry, right? I mean, I think that they're really hardworking and they don't always believe it's going to happen. But if you truly believe it, but then you let the universe kind of flow with it and understand what opportunities, like every week I say to myself, what opportunity was given to me this week and how can I make the most from it? So my goal really is very simple, just to flow into it. I'm generally speaking in the past, a brute force kind of person, make it happen. It's going to be hard. And I don't want to believe that anymore. My big belief is I want to believe that things come naturally, especially the good things in life, and I'm going to let them flow, and whatever it is, and I'm just going to be open to that.
Okay, Sarah.
Yeah.
We haven't really touched much on the emotional and spiritual sides of things. So I'd like to hear what your tips are for keeping your emotions in check. Maybe, for example, somebody with anxiety or depression. What are your first steps for them?
I think that it's one of you were saying earlier, talking about being mindful. I think that that's the biggest thing, is to have an awareness of when things are happening to you, what's going on. And we have what we call in coaching saboteurs, limiting beliefs, right? It's, gosh, you can't do that, or, and these voices in your head telling you something, and you just have to be aware of those and realize that their main focus is to keep you where you are, to stop you from growing and to stop you from changing. And so you have to have an awareness of those, being present, being mindful. Then you can just once you're aware of them, then you can say, I'm not listening to that, right? I know what I need to do. And you just push that away.
Definitely.
Yeah, and in coaching, we have this incredible exercise we do with our clients where we develop what's called their inner leader. And this has been extremely powerful for me and for my clients. It's that person that wants what's best for you. They care about you. They honor you. And so it's that person that is going to really inspire you and help you when you're feeling down or when you're having that emotional state. And it's going to be different from each person, because each person really, we do a vision, a guided exercise that helps them develop that inner leader. And then we put in place structures, what we call structures in coaching. So for example, I may meditate and think about my inner leader, and also have a meditation tape that incorporates visuals that remind me of my inner leader. So right now I have Glide, and I think about like a bird in flight, and my inner leader is like star spirit, right? So I know it sounds a little hokey, but it actually is very powerful. And so when I meditate on that, I have this meditation tape that actually is birds flying in the air, and there's visuals and you hear the bird sounds, and it really is helpful to center me and relax me. And then we also develop these things called allies. So let's say you need more confidence for something, or courage. We do, once again, exercises to help that client get in touch with somebody or something to help amplify that characteristic in their life. So maybe I want more courage, and I'm a lawyer who's trying cases, and that inner ally for me, or that ally for courage, might be Brad Pitt. So I'm going to go into that courtroom with a little Brad Pitt swag. So we call on these allies, so to speak, that we develop through the coaching process to really be our mentors in a way, and that walk with us in our journey. And because we never want to comfort ourselves, right? Because like Honor said, we're our own saboteurs. If we have something outside ourselves to comfort us, it's sometimes a little easier. We give ourselves permission.
Just to build on what Laura's talking about, one of the biggest allies that our clients find helpful is the appreciator. And so, and you always hear this, count your blessings and, be grateful. And it really does work. I mean, when you're down and you're just feeling like the world's against you, and you stop and you give thanks, or you're thankful for, you say out loud what you're thankful for, and you activate your appreciator, it can really change your mindset.
Absolutely. I this last month and a half have been actively practicing gratitude every single morning. Usually like Monday through Friday. On the weekends are a little janky for me, but I make a point for Monday through Friday, right after my workout, I make my coffee and I sit down with my gratitude journal. And I it's very simple. I don't write out like, a whole paragraph or anything, just 3 things that I'm grateful for every day. I try to have something different every day, but I mean, sometimes I'm just, thankful for the same thing. But my mindset has changed incredibly just from that one simple thing of writing down. I mean, and it could be 1, my mom, 2, my dog, 3, coffee.
Right.
It's just every day I do that, and I feel like the way I look at the world around me is starting to change, and it's awesome.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So that's a micro habit that you developed for yourself that doesn't take a lot of time, but it gives you a lot of rewards. And, for example, you mentioned spirituality. I get a verse from the Bible just emailed to me. And so that's the first thing I look at in my emails every morning. And I read it. It takes a minute, but it puts me in touch with that. And I make a micro habit of looking at that before I look at other emails, because that's how I want to start my day. And I start it with also additional Bible reading. And I volunteer every week with children who are at risk. And to me, that builds me up emotionally and spiritually. So that's just one way that I tune up my spirituality.
Yeah, and everybody has to find what works to feed their spirit, right? So maybe it's church, maybe it's volunteering, maybe it's yoga, maybe it's being outdoors. It's interesting how many people I talk to when you start to, we dig into their core values, trying to help them identify those, and so many people find themselves outside when they're visualizing things and just didn't really realize how much that feeds their soul, So again, it's being mindful when you're feeling a certain way. What is it that's making me feel this way? And then, taking that and moving that forward with yourself.
Definitely. Couple things that I do is, like Laura, I read my Bible every morning, which I find gets me in a really good headspace. But I also try to go for a walk outside every day, and just being outside, whether I'm listening to a podcast, on the phone with a friend, or just walking in silence and just hearing the birds and stuff, I've noticed that that's really anchored me, doing that and doing yoga, but especially for me being outside and getting out of like 4 walls and just experiencing the beauty of the earth. But so we should probably get to our last questions. So first off, to each of you, what does self-care mean to you?
So for me, I have historically had a trouble with this. I didn't even know what self-care was when someone told me about it. I was like, wait, what? Mm-hmm. And so it was really hard for me to understand what to do. So for me, I like to, once again, get out in nature. I agree wholeheartedly. That is so powerful, helpful, nurturing. Need to get your vitamin D, your sun. I invest in a massage every month. It helps clear my mind and my body. I think it's helpful to relax, because I take a hot bath. I like taking hot baths. I meditate and prayer. So I think all those things really are the way that I invest in self-care for me. And I'm funny. I really like my quiet time. I like my me time. And it is meditative, whether I'm meditating or I'm just sitting with a book, like you said, Dara. I think that also has a meditative quality to it.
Absolutely.
That's investing in yourself.
For sure.
Yeah, and I think this is a thing, especially as women, you have a hard time making time for yourself. You're always thinking of other people, and it's important to do that and to be intentional about doing that. And for me, as I mentioned earlier, I get up and I do yoga. This is a new thing that I put in place for myself probably 6 months ago or so, and it's made such a difference in my day. I mean, I just don't get as stressed, I'm more resilient. It's made such an impact. And then, getting good sleep. Getting enough sleep, that's so important to me. I can tell the difference when I've had 7 hours and when I've had 5 hours,
I'm still working on that.
And it's not easy, and especially when you have a lot of things on your mind, but it's so important. Drinking a lot of water, that's another thing that I'm just very, my husband's so sick of me saying, how much water have you drank today? Because I just think it's so important for your body and for everything. And for me, you guys touched on this a little bit too, but I need some actual quiet time, like no book, no person, just kind of quiet time, and it's very centering.
Absolutely.
So, next question. What do you guys each nerd out about in your free time? If it's not wellness related, how are you nerdy? We want to find your inner nerd.
Oh my God, I'm so geeky. Like, it's not even like I was a chemical engineering major. So I totally geek out on economics and finance. I admit to it. I read like a ton of the white papers and journal articles, and it's pretty disgusting, but it's fun. I find that fun.
Wow.
Yep, I knew. That's why I let her go first, because I knew that she knew. We talk about it all the time. I think it's a little harder for me.
I'm just a really cool person.
Yeah, I just can't help it. I'm super cool. No, I think it's probably planning and organizing. I probably take that sometimes to an extreme because it gives me peace for myself. And I think it's kind of like you making the, making the
anal planner.
Yeah, the list. That's a little bit of my. I'm a little geeky about that probably.
I thought I was an anal planner until I met Dara. I have my bullet journal that I designed for the year and took the time to, figure out all my goals and all that stuff. And then Dara shows up and she's like, I am planning out every meal in every little detail of my life.
Yeah.
And it's color coded.
Oh, wow. That's impressive.
Yes.
That's impressive.
Yes.
The OCD is real.
Yes, 100%. Do you have a favorite personal routine, whether it's morning or night, or maybe something that you do just once a week on the weekend, or how do you kind of get yourself ready for the day or unwind from it?
Well, I don't know if it's getting ready or unwinding from it. To unwind, I normally do. My husband goes to bed first, and I'll sit out a little bit, and I will meditate and just enjoy the white space. But my skin routine is crazy, and I've been doing it for years. And people always comment on my skin, so it must be working. But I'm pretty anal about no matter how tired I am, that skin stuff.
You do have great skin. I can see it through the Zoom.
Yes.
It's glowing.
Yeah, I feel like a broken record, but I think it's just getting up first thing and doing yoga, and before I do anything else. And I'm super blessed. My husband will make breakfast so I can do my yoga, and so I'll go downstairs and we'll have breakfast together, and it's kind of our time together before we start the day, and then just go to it.
Right on. Very cool.
Wish I had someone to make me breakfast.
I know.
What are your biggest pet peeves?
I guess for me, it's people who don't do what they say they're going to do. And yeah, and that's really kind of something that's always gotten to me. And what we find as coaches is that when there's something that really bugs you, it's because it goes directly against a core value that you have. And I think one of my core values is being reliable.
Yes.
And so then when somebody is not reliable, it just really gets to me,
It digs under your skin.
It just gets in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to admit, I'm a grammar Nazi. I really dislike it when people have poor grammar, and that's my grandmother. She's coming through, I think, from the beyond, and she's channeling herself through me. But even TV journalists, sometimes they just lack proper grammar. But I would say, I know, I admit it, but I would say beyond that, I don't like people who are very close-minded and won't at least see different perspectives on life. So I would say that people who just see the world in black and white, that I like to also look at the gray parts.
Going back to the grammar Nazi thing, I was reading last night next to Dara, and I did a face mask and read a book because we're awesome like that.
Self-care.
Yeah.
We were like, we could go out and see some live music because she's in Nashville. She's not here all the time. But we just read a book and did a face mask. And as I'm reading, I just turned to her and go, how is there a typo in this book? How many times did the editor go over this to miss that? Because there were 2 or 3 different ones in that one chapter, and it was driving me insane.
Yeah.
So feel that. So what do you ladies splurge on and what are you cheap about?
I do. I splurge on the things that I think have value to me, because like Honor said, values are important. And also things that you utilize a lot. So for example, like a mattress, you're on it every night, right? So invest in a good mattress. Good walking shoes, good quality things, a good car, a good quality car. What am I cheap with? Pretty much it's hard for me to spend on frivolous little things. Like I'm fairly cheap with makeup. I'll buy it just at the supermarket. But I splurge on the face stuff, right? So I'll buy the Retin-A or the Tazorac that's really good. But then I'll buy inexpensive, oil of Olay face cream. But yeah, I think investing if you're going to work out every day, invest in a gym. It really depends on your values. It's what's important to you.
Definitely makes sense. What about you, Honor?
So I'm kind of a foodie, and I will splurge on a good meal. If somebody tells me about a good restaurant, I'm lucky again, my husband is the same way. So we will be, that's probably at least once a week, really. We're spoiling ourselves, but we go for a really nice dinner.
Nashville has great food.
Great food, and I'm loving it. And, it's expensive, but it's a priority for us, so that's good.
You get a date in. That's always nice.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're pretty good about that. So, and then I think for where I'm cheap is, I'll buy some clothes that are on sale that are cheap at a, kind of a non-brand name thing, just because I'm like, oh, that's cute, and so I'll go cheap on that.
Absolutely. I am the same way. I'm super cheap with clothes. I'm just like,
I like quality or quantity over quality when it comes to clothes. Like if I have $100, I want to buy 6 things. Like I don't want to buy one thing. I want to buy 6 to make that dollar go far as I can
stretch
get it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny too, but I'm being back to a geek. Like I think I'd rather spend money on education than jewelry. Like I love to learn and I love to grow, personal growth. So to me, that's more important than a piece of jewelry. I know that sounds weird. Most guys be like, what's your problem?
You are kind of a nerd.
I know. My husband's like, you make me return all this jewelry. I don't get it. Are you really a woman?
It's not practical, right?
Buy me a course.
Buy me a Skillshare membership. What is an unknown secret of the life coaching industry?
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, I think the big one is that so many coaches are not certified. And people they're not smart enough to ask, hey, what is your certification? How much training have you undergone? And that's, I guess, another pet peeve of mine is because, we've spent countless hours, lots of money getting certification from the best people in the industry. It's not like a couple hours here or a weekend there. So I think that's a huge secret. Anybody can call themselves a coach, but not everybody is a true coach.
Yeah, I don't think I really have much to add to that. I think that's right.
Perfect. All right, last question. We want to hear what's your favorite band or your favorite type of music or artist?
So I'm a kind of a metalhead from way back. I know.
See that one coming.
I know.
Hold on.
What? I know. That's a surprise.
And you do yoga every morning?
Yeah, I know.
Do you do yoga to your metal?
See, I'm very balanced, right? It's all about balance. So I love, so Nirvana is one of my all-time favorites. I mean, if it comes on in the car and I'm getting to where I'm going, we'll wait and listen to it, so that's my big one.
Yeah.
Love it. How about you, Laura?
I like a lot of different music, but I would have to say like because I do like some of the older music, and we've been listening to some of the older tunes by, let's say, Tom Petty and the Eagles, but I kind of like Coldplay. I'm fascinated by them. I love all their songs. I like Imagine Dragons, but I'll listen to pretty much anything. I love music.
Very cool. Well, that is about it. This was so great and so fun, and I really appreciate y'all taking the time to speak with us and doing this Zoom meeting with us. And I think I've learned a lot, and I was also feeling a little solidified in the choices that I've been making lately. I've been like, all right, I'm kind of doing a thing.
Sound like you're doing well, and thank you so much for the opportunity. And we wish you guys a lot of luck in your podcast.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for having us. It's been
right.
super fun.
Thank you. Thank y'all so much for tuning into yet another episode of Beyond Broke and Hungry. This was our last interview episode, but stay tuned. Next week we have our grand finale, and we'll let you know what things are going on and happening in the future of Beyond Broke and Hungry. But in the meantime, keep following us on social media and check out our website, beyondbrokenhungry.com. Check you next week.